On this Mother's Day, we were challenged to think about bold women of faith in our lives. And I thought about that. I thought immediately about women of the Bible, women like Hannah, who gave her child Samuel to the Lord's service when he was only 3 years old, which meant she took him to the temple and left him there to grow up in the temple. Made him an ephod every year, I think the scripture says. I'm not even sure what an ephod is, but she made him one. So anyway, that was pretty bold. Samuel was the one who anointed David as king over Israel, if you don't know who Samuel was. But he must have been a weird guy if he grew up in a temple. But he did live into his mother's dedication. There was also Jochebed, who gave her son Moses to the Pharaoh's daughter to protect his life when he was just an infant. Or Mary, the mother of Jesus, who had to watch her son give his life. Those are all pretty bold women of faith. The Samaritan woman at the well, who, even though she didn't have a great reputation, she couldn't wait to tell people about Jesus. I started thinking about women in my life who told me about Jesus, women who were bold women of faith. And my mom was pretty cool, but I'm not going to talk about her. Some other women that really stood out, well, there's two of them that were my youth sponsors when I was in high school. Jenna Lester. Yeah, she's older than I am, actually. And Sandy Hayes. Well, Sam Salee also helped him out, and he did have some other qualities, but we won't talk about him today. If you need more info about him, talk to J.C. Long, his good buddy back there. Jenna and Sandy were in their 30s, each had a couple of kids, and they were each married, but they still worked with our youth every week. They taught us Bible stories, played ridiculous games with us, helped us put together youth Sundays. And they met weekly, not only for our youth fellowship, but again for a small group where we studied the Bible. They hosted lock-ins and retreats to the beach. There was even one retreat at the beach where I got myself thrown in jail along with most of the other guys on the trip. What a great leader. It was kind of fun looking back, though. Anyway, they welcomed us into their homes when we just had to talk or listen on the phone. Well, for some people, for hours. The only person I've ever talked to hours on the phone with is my wife, and that was before she was my wife. So, I'm not much of a phone talker. The most important thing was that they were real about their faith. They encouraged discussions which helped us learn what it meant to be a follower of Christ. They let us share our faith and doubts, ask questions. They let us know that we didn't have to be perfect, but that we were forgiven. It was on a retreat in Hog Heaven near Waco about June 1st, 1973, when our youth group went on a retreat. And that night, after our discussions, I was sitting talking with another guy my age, and during that conversation, he invited me to give my life to Christ. And now, I had grown up in the Presbyterian church, and so I didn't know about not knowing God, but no one had ever made it personal. No one had ever said, "Hey, Kevin, it's this easy. You just say an honest prayer asking Jesus into your life, and then you're one of his, part of the family of God." And I did that. So I want to thank God for stuff, for people who care to take the time and the risk, for the happenstance in life, for the thing that in Romans 8:28 that says, all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. So thanks be to God for that stuff, and especially for bold women of faith who aren't afraid to share their faith with people like me.
I didn't have the heart to tell Kevin that was my paper he ripped up a minute ago. So, earlier this week, I will have to say this, I don't wake up first thing in the morning. And my phone rang, and I was like, oh, who is it now? It was Pastor Nancy. I was like, oh, I'm wide awake, don't worry. She's like, Steve, would you do something for me this week? Sure, Nancy. What do you want me to do? You want me to go up and unlock anything? Would you give a speech about bold women? You got it, no problem. Hung up the phone, Went back to sleep, got up that afternoon, and I was like, man, that was the weirdest dream I had this morning. And I didn't have the heart to tell Brandy that, okay, I'm dreaming Nancy's calling me now, so it's like, I've got a lot on my mind. So I had to say to myself this week, okay, great. I have to talk about somebody I either knew or know, and they have to be a bold woman. Now, granted, I work all week doing Fun Bus, and I keep working with Brandy, so I started to think, well, she puts up with me a lot. She's got to be bold. And I had to ask myself, what does the definition of bold mean? Bold, by definition, is not hesitating or fearful in the face of actual or possible danger or both. Courageous and daring. Brandy works with me, so I know she's courageous and daring. It also means not hesitating to break the rules of propriety, forward, and pundit. I had to ask myself, well, that definitely speaks of Brandy. She's very bold, but it speaks of a lot of women I know as well, too. The average woman wears many hats today, and being bold goes hand in hand with achieving it all. We all hear the different quotes that encourage women that impossible is nothing, that you can do and be everything you set your mind to do. However, to do all these things, it needs to be done with boldness. To be bold, you need courage. It takes a lot of courage to attain any feat. But the more we attempt with courage, the easier it becomes to try new things and achieve our goals and aspirations. To be bold, you must be an example to emulate. Bold women many times either had a bold mother or a role model around growing up. However, somehow over the years, girls started to hear, don't do that, that's kind of what a boy does. But it takes a bold woman to tell those young girls and those young ladies to be that they can do anything that they want to. To be bold, they have to be an example to emulate. Whoops, did I say that one? I did say that one, right? Okay. To be bold, you can do it. We need to teach our daughters to be brave, bold, and confident. Raise girls to believe that with determination, they can achieve the goals they set out to pursue. Now, for most of you, you know Brandy's past. She was the coach for the gymnastics team at Round Rock High School for 21 years. And not a day goes by that I personally don't run into one of these former girls or hear from them on the internet, through a message board, or just watch them when they run into her at Home Depot, at HEB, at the school currently they teach at, and they all bust out in tears. That lets you know how much Brandy's touched their hearts. Because they had their families, they had their mothers, they had their fathers, and they had Coach Haney. Yes, I can go into Home Depot, walk with Brandy. I don't hear somebody yell out for Steve, unless Kevin's in the store, or Rick. But I hear Coach Haney, and right away, I can tell what age group that person's in. I can hear them say, Coach Brown, I know what school she retired from. If I hear Miss Brandy, I know it's one of our current kids on Fun Bus that's been touched by her heart. A few things that bold women all have: they cultivate a life they actually enjoy living. Gymnastics is something that's been with Brandy since the time I've met her, and for many of you here, as long as y'all have known her as well. Her mother, Gloria, bless her heart, used to say that Brandy came out tumbling when she was born. And she's still tumbling to this day. Bold women, they make their move. They don't wait for somebody to hand them something. They go after and get it. They don't put themselves down. Sure, they're going to hear a lot of negativity in the world, but they're going to hear a lot of positive praise as well. They might keep their quiet at that moment, and as Kevin well knows, when he gets home after making his jokes, Nancy will have a private talk with him. They don't need a boyfriend, but they're open to having a partner. They don't waste time wishing. They don't call people out. But boy, do you hear about it if you were the one. Oof. They know when to walk away, and they expect FaceTime. Not on your iPhones, keep that in mind. They give themselves a real chance to meet someone. They don't pretend that they're an episode on The Bachelor. They don't also pretend to be a Kardashian. They see themselves as an investment. They don't play the victim. They dare to go for it. They would never put their lives on hold to accommodate someone else's idea of who they should be. My sweet young lady was born in the small town of Odessa, Texas. She traveled with her family. Her father was in the oil business, and she had most of her memorable childhood memories that she can legally talk about in New Orleans. Something about gas cans and other stuff. Brandon will tell you stories about that we heard. Good thing YouTube wasn't around back then, that's all I can say. The day came where Brandy's family was loaded up and had to move to Cairo, Egypt. I don't know anybody else in here that's grown up in Cairo and got to ride horses around the pyramids. These are places that I see as pictures, but yet to Brandy, she was there. So was the Russian army. That's a different story too. Unfortunate happened. Her dad passed away while overseas, and Gloria had to step up and take 3 young girls back to Austin, Texas. For those that had the honor and the privilege of knowing my mother-in-law, Gloria, a sweet woman. As I said many times before, I didn't just date Brandy, I dated Gloria. There was a package deal. Gloria showed her boldness by having to face her fears and raise 3 girls without her husband and never remarried. Kept her faith and her vows to her daughters to ensure that they all grew up into lovely young ladies. So 1 out of 3, the one that I got, was the best thing. That's what I remember. Brandy spent her high school years at Reagan High School. She got to meet somebody there, Mr. Bryan, who helped make her go into her career for gymnastics. After graduation, she went to Southwest Texas and realized that she did not want to be away from her mother more than a semester and came back to Austin. Went to UT, and at that time had gotten married to Robert. The years went by. She started teaching at McCallum High School, coaching over there. And a friend of hers that was at Round Rock High School placed a phone call to her and said, "Hey, you want a job up here? I'm going to leave." What did Brandy do? She knew what she wanted. She didn't want to be at McCallum High School. She wanted to build a dynasty that people would remember. So she interviewed at Round Rock High School, and then she annoyed the athletic director and called him every day, from what I understood, and told him that she was the coach, and he just needed to see that. That's a bold woman, because back in those days, it didn't happen. It wasn't talked about on TV like it is now. There wasn't groups and movements saying, I can do it as well. Brandy led that fact for her. She wanted to be the example for her family and for the future women that she would help mold. 21 years she taught up there. 21 years. She coached young ladies to become more and to see the potential they had. After that, she decided to leave and start a little thing called Fun Bus. Lost her first husband, decided to go back into teaching, and then eventually got introduced to a person that would help lead her life in the right direction. Yes, that's me. Needless to say, there we go. Thank you very much. I knew it would be. Needless to say, she did find love again, and she helped bless somebody's heart. Because if it wasn't for her boldness, I wouldn't be up here today. I wouldn't be able to show my thankfulness. Being bold does not mean that they are not delicate. They have a heart, and they want love. So look at that special lady and always show her you love her. Thank you.
I didn't even write any notes. I just got the affirmation of faith up here to do last. I actually volunteered to do this. She didn't have to call me. Boy, was that a mistake. It's been a crazy week at the Scherer household. As you can see, I am here by myself today. Jordan came home on Tuesday. The house is a mess. The dog had to go to the vet with these ungodly cysts on her, and they had to be drained, so she's in the cone of shame right now. My father-in-law was admitted to the hospital. He's over at Seton Williamson Thursday night, and my mother-in-law decided to fall and break her elbow this morning at the hospital. So she at least was already there. So that is why I'm by myself today. Jordan's at her first day of work. So I'm going to talk to you guys about a bold woman in faith in my life. And like Kevin, I'm not going to talk about my mom. My mom's great. I love my mom. I miss my mom. I haven't seen my mom in a few weeks, months. I need to give her a call today, I guess. That'd probably be a pretty good idea, huh? See, this last week when we were doing our men's Bible study on Wednesday, we were talking, and one of the videos we watched was talking about when you were younger, you were told to believe this, you were told to believe that. And that really struck a chord with me. Those of you who know my past, you know where I used to go to church and what faith I grew up in. We used to go to church. But I was told what to believe. I didn't learn. So I went to college, and yes, when you go to college, you know, Jared can speak to this. You go to church very often up there. It's okay, you can admit it. You get away. So then I met this beautiful woman, a very bold woman. Her name is Tracy, and we got married. We had a kid, didn't go to church. And I'm going to talk to you about my bold woman of faith in my life. Her name is Jordan. Yeah, she's 19 years old. But at the age of 8 years old, she turned to me and her mom and said, "Why don't we go to church? Do we believe in God?" Ooh, ouch. That hurt. Well, back then, this little church called Grace used to have the pumpkin patch, and we always used to come buy our pumpkins at the pumpkin patch, and we were actually married at Grace Presbyterian Church in Victoria, Texas. My wife grew up Presbyterian, and we figured, hey, why the heck, let's come here. We came here, and we've been here ever since. Jordan, those of you who know her, she's an interesting cat. And those of you who have ever been around me and her, you guys see us interact, and we're very mean to each other. We pick on each other. We're sarcastic a lot in our house. And one thing she probably doesn't know is that she's my hero. I've watched her grow in faith by learning from all of you. And in turn, since I was brought up in a setting where I was told what to believe, I'm still learning and I'm still growing. So Jordan's very special to me, not just because she's my daughter, but because I learn a lot from her. And those of you who've ever sat down or gone on a mission trip with her or talked to her, she's an interesting cat, let me tell you. She's strong. Watch out, those of you who are going to see her in the next few weeks when she comes up here. She's very strong. She's been working out a lot. They had a very rough off season. But Jordan she's the person that I really look up to whenever it comes to growing in faith. And I thank all you ladies and all you people here who really helped her grow spiritually. That means a lot to me, and it means a lot to Tracy. I wish Tracy could be here too. Unfortunately, neither one of them knew what I was going to talk about today, so guess they're out of luck. But one thing that really impresses me about Jordan is that, the whole thing about getting recruited to play volleyball, that was all her. Brad and I helped her set up her website. I said, it's your thing. You call coaches. You email coaches. And she got on at Sul Ross State, and she was a starter every match as a freshman. She'll be a starter every match as a sophomore. Mark your calendars. I think it's October 13th and 14th is a weekend that they'll be here at Concordia and Mary Hardin Baylor. So, but she's going to transfer. Sol Ross doesn't have the major. She changed her major. She wants to get into something different. So she wants to transfer to Texas State. She said something to me the other day. So just so you guys know, Jordan is an outside hitter. She's a 5'8" outside hitter. That's not very tall for a Division I school. She plays outside hitter. We'll probably play all the way around in the fall. And she plays at a Division III school. No scholarships, no athletic scholarships. She said to me the other day, she goes, Dad, I'm going to call the coach at Texas State and see if they'll give me a tryout. I'm going to work on my back row. I said, we're going to be playing all the way around, so yeah, you'll be fine. So she's got that courage. When she was little, those of you guys who met her, she didn't have a lot of confidence. And I think that really playing volleyball and being around people like you and learning from a lot of y'all has really made her grow. And I've learned so much from her and from all of y'all. She's really special to me. And I really don't have a whole lot more to say about that. So Steve, thanks for talking longer than me.